Greetings to all fellow Africans. Greetings from Miracle Consultants. It is my pleasure to do this short recording announcing our revolutionary service in form of an association that we have formed as a company. So for now, this association will be under the wings of Miracle Consultants, but as soon as it is able to operate independently, it will be registered as an independent association. So this association, it was formed in Gweru, Mukoba section to be precise, particularly in the Bristol area. So those who know Gweru, they know that we have got Bristol and we've got Mambo. So so there was a survey that was done in Mukoba, specifically Bristol. So data was collected from 30 participants operating in different informal sector areas. 5 of them were domestic workers, 5 of them were gas sellers, we had tuck shop owners or tuck shop operators, we had vendors, and within the vendor category, we had those that were selling vegetables, we had those that were selling clothing. We also collected data from loan providers, normally known as loan sharks or mashonisa. So the name of the association is Miracle Hustlers Association Squared. Miracle Hustlers Association Squared. Now, those who did mathematics, basic math, you understand that squared means we are repeating something. So if I say, let's say, A squared is more like saying A times A, which can be written as AA, right? So now from that, Miracle Hustlers Association Squared, if we abbreviate it, English, we will end up with a word or a name that we are all familiar with, which is MHAMHA. So that's MHAMHA. So MHAMHA is a Shona word for mother. Okay, so this association basically it is representing, the mother figure of the informal sector. So what we realized is, as a chief strategist within the organization, Miracle Consultants, using my experience at university level, I conducted a master's study on small, medium, and micro enterprises. By then, I was still in South Africa, Cape Town. So I realized that the informal sector is looked down upon, yet they are very instrumental. For example, domestic workers, right? If you are a domestic worker, or let's say if you are a gardener, or if you are a cleaner at domestic level, right? You are actually considered an informal sector employee. But then your counterpart or your friend who is also a gardener or a cleaner at a commercial bank or at a government hospital, they are considered formal sector employees simply because they are employed by a company that is formally registered. So you see, that difference or that discrimination, we actually saw that it's really affecting many people, because you see now that those who are in the formal sector, they can easily get loans from banks. because they have got certain, documentations and information like an employee number, like a pay slip, which actually those in the informal sector does not have. So the association is actually aimed at dealing with this challenge, right? So, and also we actually conducted, another, study in form of a research article, whereby we actually realized that this distinction between informal and formal is not really justified, because now remember, for a formal sector employee to be able to actually concentrate, I'll give you an example. Let's say a managing director of a commercial bank, right? You have got a maid who looks after the children, who cooks and stuff. Now, for that managing director to actually function effectively, he or she must have peace of mind that my kids are safe. And then guess who is giving that person the peace of mind? It is me, the gardener, it is me, the maid. But then when it comes to the grouping, now the managing director is a formal employee, and then I am an informal employee. So you see, because if we really, look very closely at this issue, we will see actually that this distinction between informal and formal is not really justified, because if a formal company can confer formality status to an employee, that means if I am employed by a formal employee, so that same formal status must also, or should also, be conferred to me as a maid. So see, that is how things should be. But anyway, the name or the category informal comes from the non-payment of tax, basically. But then what we realized from the study that we conducted in Mkoba is the vendors, they are required to actually pay operating licenses every month. They register and then they pay operating license. That means the tomato sellers, the clothing sellers, the gas sellers, the truck shop owners, they all have to register with the city council. So basically, that process of registration formalizes them, at least, at city level, or at suburb level, right? So these participants, these informal sector participants, they are actually formal, because they if we go to the city council, now remember, city council is part of local governance, right? Or local government. So they're still an arm of the government, the national government, right? But then they just operate, within a small area or a small suburb or like a city. That's why they're called city councils. So if I am registered with the city council, that means I am formal. So I'm no longer informal. So banks and other formal institutions should also, not what can I say? They should not segregate the informal sector participants, especially those that are registered with the city council. But then the banks are also justified in denying certain services to informal sector participants. For example, there is no record, like proper record, of the financial history of a person. So now remember, if a bank wants to offer a business a loan, sometimes they'll ask for financial statements for the past 3 years and stuff. and also a business plan for the future. Now, that is what is lacking in the informal sector. So as an association, we want to attempt, or rather, we want to facilitate the self-formalization of the informal sector. Let me repeat again, the self-formalization of the informal sector. So now remember, this informal labeling or category, it is from the government's perspective. But now, from the perspective of these participants, it's not informal. It's not informal, because from our research, we actually found that some have been vendors for 24 years, some for 19 years. Now, do you call that informal? That's not informal. That is formal to them, because they have trained children in schools, they have trained their children up to university, they have built houses, something that actually the most formal employees are failing to do. But them as vendors, they were able to do that. Now imagine if they were helped with a bank loan, to actually buy the house. Things would have been easy for them. But now, as I've said earlier on, banks and financial institutions, they are justified in their hesitation to offer services to the informal sector. So we as an association, we are going to act as a bridge between the informal sector and the formal sector. How? For instance, we asked the participants if they are willing to use an accounting application meant for the informal sector, and about 93% they said yes. So basically, we are going to develop different applications that are going to help the informal sector participants to self-formalize them. For instance, right, like now in South Africa, and God bless South African institutions, and as well as the South African government, because they have actually made it possible for one of the undermined classes in the informal sector to actually access essential services like loans and pension fund and etc. So, for instance, in South Africa, currently, a domestic worker can now get a loan, right? As long as you have got a bank account that actually proves that there is a salary that is paid into your account every month, right? And remember, the bank account also gives history of how you use your money, like your financial history. And other institutions, they will require an employment contract, but for some service providers, they only require a 3 months bank statement. So that is good news, and so South Africa is already leading the way, by also including these undermined informal sector participants in form of domestic workers. So that is good news. But however, even still in South Africa, if you are employed and you don't have a bank account, or you are being paid cash, which I know is rare, right? But anyway, those that are still, being paid by cash, that's where we now come in. So we can give you an application. This application, you are going to record your salary the day that you are going to be given it. You are going to be given your salary. Now you will record it, and each time you use your money, you have to record that transaction in the app, right? So there will be an app specifically for domestic workers. which only focuses on money coming in and money going out. There's no need to put functions like stock and stuff. And then at the end of the month, you're able to print a statement on how you used your money. But now that facility now, to prevent fraud, because now remember, someone can actually fabricate that and say, I am employed, and then they now start to record fictitious figures just to qualify for a loan. So alongside the records from the app, we will also require actually a contract from the employer. And the association, they'll send a member to your employer in person, and that employer has to confirm that they have actually employed you. And for us to further, prevent fraud, we will actually request a copy of your employer's ID, which is going to be attached to the confirmation that the employer's ID will be attached to the employment contract, so that should it be revealed later that this was actually a fraudulent, confirmation, then the employer will be liable. So now, can you see now that the association is now going to actually, do a lot for all domestic workers within the African continent? That is our aim. Yes, you heard me right. The African continent, I know, is very big, but we will start one step at a time. Like now, we are starting in Mkoba, Bristol area, right? And then from there, we go to Mkoba, Mambo, until we've covered, the almost definitely, we cannot cover like everyone, like house by house, but at least once we are certain that at least we've raised awareness within the Bristol area, we now move on to Mambo area. Then from there we go to Mutapa, we go to Ascot, we go to Athlone, and all the suburbs that are in Gweru. Once we are done with Gweru, we go to the next city. It could be Bulawayo, then we go to Kwekwe, we go to Kadoma, until we have covered the entire country. When we're done with Zimbabwe, we move on to the next country until we cover everyone within the African continent. It might take us 20 years, it might take us 10 years, only God knows. So once we have that, that means a member of the association, if you're a domestic worker and you're a member of the association, that means you are now able to actually, and eventually we will actually choose certain banks that we will partner with, that will accept our paperwork after we have proved ourselves to be, trustworthy and, to be operating with integrity. And once we do that, banks will now be, more open and more willing to help domestic workers and stuff. And then with regards to vendors, again, we are going to develop an application that they'll be using to record their financial records. They will record their stock, just like a normal business. When you buy your tomatoes, you record them, and we are actually going to teach them how to do that. And when they sell, they also record that. That means at the end of the month, they're able to also print like income statement, statement of financial position, and stuff. So at the end of the day, there will be no distinction between formal and informal sector. So we are also advocating for a change in name from informal to pure private sector or pure private economy. So we are proposing to governments, particularly in the African continent or in Africa, to actually consider renaming the informal sector to pure private sector. So that means we are going to have three tiers. The number one is the pure private sector, which constitutes of those individuals that are not paying tax, right? And then we are now going to have the private sector, which now constitutes of private institutions, but that have registered for, tax payments with the government. And then we are going to have the government sector. So we are going to have three levels. That is the pure private sector, the private sector, and the government sector. So at least these categories, they actually don't undermine anyone. No one will feel inferior. It's only that the pure private sector, this is actually the breeding ground for the bigger companies that will, eventually join the private sector, right? Or maybe the government sector. So once we actually do that, we are also going to create an economy, or rather a community, okay, whereby we are going to integrate all informal sector participants into one digital community, just like the social platforms like Facebook, like Twitter. So we are also going to have our own association platform, but this one, it will be specifically for the pure private sector, right? That means we are going to have a tomato seller in Zimbabwe, Bristol to be precise, being connected to a tomato seller in Mutare, just talking about business, how is business and stuff. And also the tomato seller in Gweru, Bristol to be precise, can also be connected to a tomato seller in Nigeria or in Ghana. So why are we doing this? We are also trying to contribute towards the current trends that are happening within the the world, and one of them is global consciousness. Now, global consciousness is simply the understanding that we are one, irrespective of color, like skin color, gender, religion, and nationality, and all those. We are one. So as MHAMHA, Miracle Hustlers Association, we want to unite all the hustlers in Africa, right? So this might sound too ambitious, but with one step at a time, even after 50 years, even after 20 years, it is achievable, especially with the help of artificial intelligence, specifically generative AI, right? So, and then we also have got one group that is, that is not protected. We've got the group of loan sharks or mashonisa, those illegal, if I can use that term, like it's considered illegal because you cannot offer financial services if you're not a registered financial service provider, right? But however, in our own opinion, their illegal activities does not constitute a crime. Yeah. Or should I say a punishable crime or a punishable offense? Because think about it. If I am a loan shark and then you come to me and then I give you money, right? So it's my money that I'm giving you. So as much as this is illegal, but actually I'm not harming you, I'm helping you. And now if you don't pay me back, now I am the one losing because I am not protected. You see, so if we really analyze this from a factual point of view, these guys are actually, doing their best to help. So we actually realize that they're actually doing quite a lot, because there are so many people that are surviving within the lower levels of the economy. They are surviving because of the help they got from these loan sharks. So these loan sharks, they are filling the gap which the banks are not able to fill at the moment. But also, we also acknowledge that maybe sometimes their rates are a bit exploitative, that we understand. But we want to stand in and actually educate them, speak to them, right, about considering, lowering their rates a bit, because I know there are some loan sharks that charges 20% a month, some they charge 30%, but so far the highest is 50%. That's the one that we are aware of. Probably there will be some that can even go higher than that. But we as an association, we want to protect the service providers as well as the community. So we cannot endorse a service provider who is going to sort of exploit the community, because sometimes for a person to go to a loan shark that charges 50%, it's not that they can afford it. It is that they are pressed or they are forced to. You see. So we are going to propose certain percentage threshold after we have consulted with loan providers, in the near future. Then we are also going to develop an application that they'll be using to actually keep their records, keep their clients. That means they're also able to send a loan statement either via WhatsApp or via email. So they'll be actually operating as formal businesses. They'll also be sending a reminder. Then once that is done, we are now going to see and actually apply to the government for their formal recognition, at least at city level or at suburb level. So what we can say maybe is at suburb level, for you to qualify to be actually formalized, I see in the eyes of the city council, maybe your maximum rate must be, let's say, 30%. Then maybe for you to be recognized at city level, maybe your maximum could be maybe 20%, something like that. We are going to create tiers, right, whereby the service providers, they'll be given an option to formalize themselves according to a certain tier. So once we do that, then even insurance companies, they will now be able to offer their services to these loan providers. So basically, as an association, all these actions that we are going to do, we will need partners, either in form of new associations being formed in other countries, because the market is too big for one association to actually take care of all this. So if you are listening to this video and then actually this gives you an idea to also start something either identical to this or something that is supportive, you are more than welcome. The market is big, and the more service providers there are, the more innovative we are forced to become, and actually the cheaper the services will be to the public. So someone might say, hey, but why are these guys actually giving out such such brilliant business ideas before? What if someone actually, or like a big company steals the idea? Our goal actually is not to make a fortune out of this, even though we also intend to make a profit at some point, because we need to pay the employees that will be serving the association, as well as for the continuity of the association. But however, the main goal is actually to serve the community. So if a big company comes and actually goes ahead of us and offers the same service that we are talking about, and then we are happy, we will just be innovative and think of something else. So yeah. So for now, if you are a service provider, if you are in the informal sector, and you are interested in our services, for now, especially the app. So if you're a vendor and you want an app, you are a loan provider, you want an app, you are a domestic worker, you want an app, you just need to send us an email on miracleconsultants@gmail.com. miracleconsultants@gmail.com. But now the spelling of miracle is double R, right? So it's miracle consultants at gmail.com, right? We will also send the email in the comment section. So yeah, you can actually send an email there. We are actually going to provide two emails, and we will actually give you detailed instructions on how you actually can contact us. So for the companies and institutions that wants to partner with us, you send an email to miracleconsultants@gmail.com, right? Because that is the mother company that will deal with partnerships. But for the individuals who wants to be members, you will send an email to Africa. I think it's africa.mama@gmail.com. But I will confirm that and will send the correct email in the comment section. Looking forward to our collaboration at institution level and as well as at individual level. But for now, it's goodbye and God bless.